Dear students, in the last session we have discussed the demand side of the labor market. In this session we will discuss the supply side of the labor market. It is the last relation necessary for determining employment and output in the classical system. That is the labor supply curve. And labor services are supplied by individual workers in the economy. Individual workers in the economy, like labor demand demanded by individual firms. It is also assumed that individual worker attempts to maximize utility. A worker is a utility maximizer. Now, the classical labor supply function is based on the idea that a worker has a choice between work and leisure. A worker is a utility maximizer and he has a choice between work. Work is a bad and leisure a good. And supply of labor decision depends on work versus leisure. Now, work, a bad commodity, is tolerated because it is a source of income which provides purchasing power to the worker. Without working, the worker will not get income, so he cannot purchase goods and services. So, to purchase goods and services, he has to supply labor. Now, the relative price mediating the choice between work and leisure is real wage. Real wage mediates the choice between work and leisure. And real wage measures the price of leisure relative to income. Real wage measures the price of leisure relative to income. It means that an extra hour of leisure costs the real wage which a worker could have earned. The cost of an extra hour of leisure is the real wage the worker could have earned by working that hour. So the price of leisure is real wage. Naturally, as W by P increases, real wage increases, price of leisure increases, and the willingness to enjoy leisure decreases. So, worker is a utility maximizer and utility depends on work and leisure, a good and a bad commodity, and in the indifference curve analysis, you know what is a bad, what is a good, and the shape of the indifference curves associated with the good, bad, etc. The price of leisure, the good, is determined by the real wage. As real wage increases, price of leisure increases, so the desire to leisure decreases. And classical analysis attempts to explain what happens to the number of hours worked when real wage increases. What happens to the number of hours worked when real wage increases? And it decomposes the total change into a substitution effect and an income effect. a substitution effect and an income effect associated with an increase in real wage. The change in real wage and its impact on the choice of a worker is divided into a substitution effect and an income effect. And substitution effect refers to the impact on a worker's decision to supply labor when W by P changes. As we have discussed, is W by P increases, work become relatively cheaper compared to leisure, or what we say, leisure become costly. Work become cheaper means leisure become costly as W by P increases. So, as W by P increases, a worker will enjoy less leisure and he will work more. That is the substitution effect. But remember also this, when real wage increases, worker has more income for a given number of hours worked, and this is the income effect. When real wage increases, there is a substitution effect and an income effect. Substitution effect is that leisure become costly, he will work more. Income effect is that per hour work will give him more real income, for more income, so that his tendency to work more decreases. So when W by P increases, substitution effect increases the number of hours worked, income effect actually reduces the number of hours worked. Two opposing effects, like what you have studied in microeconomics. A price effect is decomposed into an income effect and a substitution effect. Here the price is real wage. Its effect on work, leisure, is decomposed into substitution effect and income effect. Classical theory assumes that, like any other consumption goods, leisure is a normal good. Leisure is a good, leisure is a normal good. So as real wage increases, a worker will demand more of all the goods, including leisure. So he work less. As real wage increases, as leisure is a normal good, what happens is demand for leisure increases. So what happens? He work less. The substitution effect causes workers to supply more hours of work. Substitution effect increases work, reduces leisure. On the other hand, income effect reduces the number of hours work. So both move in the opposite direction. Substitution effect increases the number of hours worked. Income effect reduces the number of hours worked. So both move in the opposite directions. And what will be the overall effect? The question is, what will be the overall effect? Classical theory asserts that substitution effect dominates income effect. Substitution effect dominates income effect, so that in the relevant range of real wage rate, supply of function is positively related to real wage. That is, L, supply of labor is SL of the ith frame is positively related to, so if W by P is W by P1, L1, W by P is L2, W by P2, like that. So in the relevant range, As real wage increases, substitution effect dominates income effect, so that as real wage increases, more labor will be supplied. But it is also possible that if the real wage becomes so high, then income effect may dominate substitution effect, so that he will supply less amount of labor. In that case, supply of labor curve bends backwards. This is a possibility known to you from your course in microeconomics. So that part I am not discussing here. We assume that in the classical model, labor supply curve is a positively sloped function of real wage. And if we consider this for the economy as a whole, the aggregate labor supply curve is W by P with the relation between supply of labor and real wage positive. Supply of labor is a positive function of real wage. So we have introduced the aggregate production function, the demand for labor function, and supply of labor function. These are the three ingredients required for examining classical theory of income and output determination. Now, always remember two features of the classical model. The first feature is the wage in the classical model is the real wage. Labor supply and labor demand decisions depends on the real wage. That means as supply and demand decisions depends on the real wage, it is assumed that prices are known to the workers and also the firms. Prices are known to the workers and also the firms. Now the question is why it is based on real wage. It is assumed in the classical model that supply of labor is a utility maximizer, so that he will supply more labor if the real wage increases. But this is an extreme assumption. We do not know how we will obtain correct information about price level in the economy. Anyway, this is what is assumed in the classical model. A second point is labor supply function is positively related. That means substitution effect dominates income effect. We consider only the positively sloped part of aggregate supply curve, aggregate supply of labor curve. And in the next class, we will explain classical theory of income and output determination using these three ingredients.